Hello viewers, and the topic for today is prebiotics and probiotics. Pre and probiotics have created a boom in recent years as they are useful in preventing dreadful diseases, even chronic diseases. Pre and probacteria have a positive effect on gut flora, even on digestive system. There are 500 species of bacteria in gastrointestinal tract. In them, there are good bacteria and bad bacteria. Good bacteria, for an example, E. coli in synthesizing vitamin B12, where no other cell in the human body can do that. Lactic acid bacteria is present in the yogurt, even that helps in digestion. Apart from that, as there is a saying, health is wealth. In this busy world, health has become a major concern. There are n number of products available in the market. But prebiotics and probiotics have created a new health miracle which claims to helpful or prevention of chronic diseases. Prebacteria act as a nourishment for a probacteria. In this regard, is that easy to consume, whether we can consume that as it is available in the market as dietary food supplements? All this clarification let us do with our scientist, Dr. R. Hemlata. She is a scientist and head deputy director for clinical division in National Institute of Nutrition. Ma'am, can you tell me a few words about prebiotics and probiotics?
Yeah, actually the concept of probiotics evolved in the early 20th century, that is between 1905 to 1910. A Russian Nobel laureate, a French scientist working in Pasteur Institute of Paris named Elie Metchnikoff, he actually conceptualized the concept of probiotics. With his keen observation, he noted that people who drank milk, sour milk, carried or preserved in sheep or goat skin were healthier and lived longer. So from there, this concept of probiotics actually originated, but still Elie Metchnikoff did not know what exactly related health with drinking of sour milk. It was a student in Geneva who discovered this bacteria and said a long rod-shaped bacteria in plenty in numbers are present in this sour milk. So immediately Elie Metchnikoff connected presence of bacteria in sour milk to good health, and he popularized the concept of probiotics and drinking of yogurt in almost the whole of Europe. Much before this Elie Metchnikoff concept, in 400 B.C., the Greek physician, famous Greek physician, Hippocrates noted, and I quote him, "Death sits in bowel, a bad digestion is the root of all evil." So he, as early as 400 B.C., realized that all root cause of all evils begin in bad digestion and sits in the gut. So after that, WHO and FAO in 2001 gave this definition that microorganisms which when administered in adequate quantities confer beneficial effects can be classified as probiotics.
Ma'am, what is prebiotics?
Prebiotics are non-digestible, non-starch polysaccharides. They are not digested in our stomach and intestine, therefore they go to the large gut where they are fermented by our gut bacteria, commensal bacteria. And when they are fermented, a lot of beneficial products are being released. They usually come from natural products like plenty of fruits and vegetables. Then they are also present in onion, garlic. Chicory also is a very rich source of prebiotics. Some of the commonly used prebiotics are oligofructosaccharide, oligogalactosaccharides, inulin. Mostly these are fibers actually, but they are classified as prebiotics because they promote selectively the growth of beneficial bacteria in the gut. That is the reason they are called prebiotics.
Ma'am, what is the difference between prebiotics and probiotics?
Yeah. Probiotics, as I already told you, are live microorganisms which when administered in adequate amount confer health benefit. They are live, they have to be viable to confer health benefits. Whereas prebiotics are not live, they come from polysaccharides and oligosaccharides. They are usually non-starch polysaccharides. They come from fiber. Because they come from fiber, they are usually associated with fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, whole grains and all. They are not live. They are compounds coming from this, but they promote the growth of probiotic bacteria.
Ma'am, are probiotics naturally present in our system?
Yes, yes. Probiotics are naturally present, though they are not called probiotics, they are called commensal bacteria. But before going to that, let me tell how this name probiotics evolved. In the year 1965, Lilly and Stilwell, two scientists, called bacteria that promote the growth of other beneficial bacteria as probiotics. But later, Parker was the scientist who first actually used the name probiotics in the sense that it is being used today. That is, bacteria that regulates gastrointestinal flora can be called as probiotics. Now, as you asked whether probiotics are present naturally, yes, they are present. They are actually called commensal bacteria. And if you ask me the right proportions, about 60% of it comes from Firmicutes and slightly lesser proportion of Bacteroides, and lesser than that Actinobacteria, and much lesser will be coming from Enterobacteriaceae group. Now, maintaining this proportion is very, very important, very critical, because when disturbances occur in the proportion of these beneficial bacteria, then diseases can occur. We have about 10 trillion bacteria in our gut, in our gastrointestinal tract. That is more than number of persons living on this planet at any given time. 10 trillion bacteria, each one of us have. And it is 10 times more than the number of cells in our body. So, we have more bacteria than the number of living cells in our body. And the metabolic functions of flora is more than that of our livers.
Ma'am, as you said, 10 trillion bacteria in our system. Where do they come from? Is that it is within our system? What exactly is that?
Yeah, actually, in a newborn, when the baby is born, the baby's gastrointestinal tract is sterile. There are no bacteria. But within few days, number of bacteria start colonizing the intestine. However, this again depends on how the baby is born. A vaginally born baby has a different kind of profile compared to a baby taken by cesarean section. Similarly, a full-term healthy normal infant will have a different kind of profile compared to a very low birth weight baby. Now, why so many bacteria do we have in the system? Are there any functions? Yes, there are. They have very important metabolic functions, trophic functions, and they enhance the intestinal tract immune function. They have constant crosstalk with our intestinal mucosal immunity, and the whole immunity in our system develops because of the bacteria present in them. As far as this metabolic functions are concerned, they release a lot of short chain fatty acids which nourish the epithelial cells of the intestine. Therefore, epithelial cells of the intestine are healthy and there is better digestion, that is, they aid in digestion, and because of constant interaction with the immunity, they also regulate immune responses and inflammation. And in fact, as you said in the beginning, they also aid in the synthesis of vitamins and also mineral absorption. Nowadays, studies have shown that they aid even in the absorption of minerals like calcium, magnesium, iron, etc. Currently, the probiotics that are commonly used come from genera Lactobacilli. Quite a few species and strains have been characterized as probiotics. And next one is Bifidobacteria, of course. Again, quite a few strains are there. Then also Streptococcus, and some yeasts are also known, Aspergillus and other yeast also is there. And these probiotics have to have certain properties again. Only then they can be classified.
Okay, under that.
Yeah, under that.
Ma'am, tell us about probiotics properties and importance.
Yeah. Probiotic properties, there are certain criteria based on which a bacteria can be defined as probiotics. They should be not toxic, non-allergenic, non-pathogenic. They should be acid and bile tolerant. That is, when we ingest the bacteria, they should not be killed with the acidic pH in the stomach and also by bile juice. Therefore, they have to be tolerant, and once they reach the intestine, they should be able to adhere, proliferate and colonize in the intestine. And also they should have some beneficial effects, like say for instance prevention of infection, reduction of inflammation, etc.
And functions, ma'am?
Yeah, functions you can see here. There you can see how probiotics, they regulate mucosal barrier, they synthesize vitamins, then metabolism of bile acids are there. They produce a lot of short chain fatty acids which aid in epithelial cell nourishment. They maintain the pH, right pH in the intestine. They also regulate inflammation and immunity. Probiotics do have a lot of functions, and now it's discovered that probiotics functions or commensal bacteria, beneficial bacteria functions are not limited just to the gastrointestinal tract. Though they are residing in the gastrointestinal tract, their functions reach far and wide. Like say for instance, they not only aid in the synthesis of vitamins and mineral absorptions, but also because they regulate the mucosal barrier function, they limit the transfer of lipopolysaccharides from bad bacteria cell wall into the system. They prevent that by aiding in strong intestinal membrane, and by regulating immunity, they enhance immune response to certain microorganisms, and they regulate inflammation, control inflammation, because inflammation, as I already told you, is the root cause of many chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, insulin resistance, etc. They also regulate the pH, which is very, very important for keeping the bad bacteria at a control level. Then they produce a lot of short chain fatty acids which aid and nourish the intestinal epithelial cells, and they metabolize bile acids. I will give you one example here, germ-free animals which have been raised by scientists to see the effect of bacteria on normal growth and sustenance. So these animals are called germ-free because they were raised in totally sterile environment. That means not even a single bacteria these animals have come in contact with. So they are called germ-free animal, means bacteria-free animals. Now what happened? Their growth was very poor, their immunity never developed, they had a very short survival, and their intestinal growth was totally atrophied. They hardly could live long. So that is the state. Even for a normal growth and sustenance, this bacteria, commensal bacteria, are very, very critical.
Ma'am, whether probiotics control infections?
Yeah, they do control and prevent infections, as I already told you, very well worked out. Probiotics have been worked out with diarrheal infections and also wound healing, pancreatitis, quite a few infections they have worked. Like they prevent infections and also aid in faster recovery. Now the mechanisms involved are, they enhance immunity, that is they enhance mucosal immunity, that is wherever they reside, that is in the gut. Not only mucosal immunity, they also enhance systemic immune responses and also regulate immune responses. Apart from enhancing and regulating local and systemic immune responses, probiotics also prevent infections by competing with nutrition. Like these probiotic bacteria and also pathogenic bacteria require nutrition, right, to proliferate and grow. Whereas when probiotic or beneficial bacteria predominate, they compete for nutrition with pathogenic bacteria. So they prevent or control the proliferation of pathogenic bacteria. And apart from this, they also prevent addition of pathogenic bacteria, because they occupy all the important niche in the intestine. They are already colonized and they are proliferating. So there is no proper niche for pathogenic bacteria. And these are the three mechanisms by which probiotic bacteria can prevent and also control infections. But the fourth one is, they also release some substances, say for instance lactic acid, hydrogen peroxide, and bacteriocins are released by this beneficial or probiotic bacteria. Once again, these are all deleterious and pathogenic to bad bacteria, that is pathogenic bacteria. Yeah. So there are 4 or 5 mechanisms by which your beneficial and probiotic bacteria can control or prevent infections. Here I would also like to tell you, gut flora disturbances, particularly in children, have been associated with diseases like atopic, allergic diseases, autism, and attention deficit hyperactive disorders in children, disturbances in gut flora have been associated with these conditions. And in pregnant women, disturbances in vaginal flora have been associated with preterm deliveries, reproductive tract infections, and even HIV infections. The acquisition and adverse effects of HIV infection can be more severe when the flora is disturbed. In adults, disturbance of gut flora can result in obesity, metabolic syndrome disorders, diabetes type 2, hypertension. Like many of these chronic diseases conditions are associated with disturbed gastrointestinal flora.
Ma'am, these probiotics, do they have any effect on geriatric group, I mean older age people?
Yes, they do have a very important role here, because as such older people, aged population, they have compromised immune response, and as you know very well, probiotics have a very important role in maintaining immune responses, and studies have shown that supplementation of probiotics in geriatric population improves immune response to vaccines.
Ma'am, what is the significance of probiotics?
Yeah. See, maintaining a normal flora balance is very important. For instance, commensal bacteria coming from Firmicutes should be higher in ratio compared to Enterobacteria group, and also Bifidobacteria group and Bacteroides group. Maintaining a proper ratio is very important, means beneficial or good bacteria should always predominate compared to Enterobacteria group. And disturbances can occur in natural course of life. For instance, when conditions like when you consume lot of antibiotics, antibiotics do disturb flora. Even 1 or 2 days of antibiotics consumption have shown to increase the Enterobacteria ratio to 70%. Normally it should be kept below 5%, but it can increase even up to 70%. So diseases can occur. When disturbances of this flora occurs, what happens? Like beneficial bacteria, as I already told you, aid in release of several substances that maintain the integrity of the intestine, while Enterobacteria group disturb this integrity of intestine and increase pro-inflammatory conditions. When beneficial bacteria are at a higher level, they maintain the integrity and decrease pro-inflammatory status. That is, inflammation is decreased, and inflammation is the root cause of many diseases. Therefore, maintaining a normal balance is very, very critical. Again, colon cancers are rising in prevalence, especially in the recent past.
Yes.
Though not much in India and Western countries, they are increasing in prevalence. Colon cancer means cancer in the large gut, large intestine, the rectum and all. Now here again, it's very well connected with the type of food that you take. These are mostly connected with the high fat diet. Now here again, probiotics and beneficial bacteria have a very major role. They have shown that they prevent the formation of carcinogens. When people consume lots of high fat diet and polished foods, polished grains and all, carcinogens are usually produced. Now these carcinogens are kept under control, or they don't increase. The carcinogens do not increase when beneficial or probiotic bacteria are consumed. There are animal studies showing that even though high fat diet is given, along with high fat diet, if you consume probiotic bacteria, particularly with Bifidobacteria, they have shown, if Bifidobacteria is given along with high fat diet, the adverse effects that are associated with high fat diet are mitigated when probiotic is given along with it. This is a very, very important point, because all of us know how high fat diet has lot of adverse effects on host. Now most of these adverse effects can be prevented if only we can consume probiotic bacteria along with high fat diet, because animal studies have shown. Probiotics, when consumed in milk, that is in the form of curd or yogurt, it is also known to improve bone health. They improve calcium absorption, they improve bone density. Therefore, I am sure this probiotic bacteria or in the form of curd or yogurt will definitely help geriatric population, because they not only enhance immunity but also improve bone health. And it is also well known that this probiotic bacteria are anti-inflammatory, antioxidative and anti-aging. They have these properties because they bring about this proteolytic fermentation. So in geriatric population, when she asked me about how they help in geriatric population, apart from improving immunity, they improve bone health and also aid in when they confer this anti-aging properties, anti-inflammatory and antioxidative. Now, consumption of probiotics and also studies with consumption of yogurt have shown that it reduces the incidence of or alleviates the complication of diabetes and reduces the incidence of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance in the sense, people who regularly consume yogurt or trials which have shown where probiotics have been given, they have lesser blood glucose levels and also lesser blood insulin levels. When glucose levels and insulin levels are high, it is called insulin resistance, and it is a marker, like after some time these individuals are going to develop type 2 diabetes. So, when probiotics or regular consumption of yogurt have shown that it can keep the blood levels and insulin levels at a lower level, that means insulin resistance is decreased, that is insulin sensitivity is improved. Now, you may think how probiotic bacteria or bacteria in yogurt can bring about decrease or improvement in insulin sensitivity. Now, basically this probiotic bacteria, as I already told you, control inflammation. Like inflammation means this is a part of immune response and it is naturally present in every individual. It is a process of controlling infection. However, if inflammation goes over and above, it can cause adverse effects, particularly when it is chronic in nature. And this inflammation usually originates in the intestine. Therefore, it is closely connected with good and bad bacteria.
Yes.
You can understand that. Now, how does this inflammation occur and what are its consequences? So, for instance, as I already told you, if good bacteria, beneficial bacteria predominate in your gastrointestinal tract, then intestinal integrity is maintained. But when you consume lots of high fat diet, high calorie diet, even high carbohydrate diet, our own studies have shown that intestinal integrity is lost. Integrity means intestinal membrane integrity is lost and beneficial bacteria reduce in number and this bad bacteria or bacteria belonging to the Enterobacteriaceae group increase. So, bacteria belonging to the Enterobacteriaceae group have gram-negative cell wall. This gram-negative cell wall generally have a component called lipopolysaccharide. So, naturally when gram-negative bacteria, that is Enterobacteriaceae group, increase in number, this lipopolysaccharide component of gram-negative bacteria cell wall are released in large quantities in the intestine. Now, these are secreted into the circulation because, as I already told you, when bad bacteria, that is Enterobacteriaceae group, increase in number, there is lipopolysaccharide secretion shed. Apart from that, the integrity of the intestine also is lost. So, the barrier is not proper, it is not strong. So, all the lipopolysaccharides are, they enter the circulation, reach the circulation, and this LPS, that is the component of gram-negative bacteria, are very well known to be strong antigens. Now, these lipopolysaccharides, which are also called endotoxins, these circulate in the blood, they stimulate mucosal immunity and also they constantly stimulate the systemic immune responses. Therefore, inflammatory reactions initially they begin, and now because lipopolysaccharide components, that is endotoxins, are circulating at high level in these individuals who are constantly consuming lots of high fat diet. So, there is a perpetual stimulation of systemic as well as mucosal immunity. So, what will happen? There is chronic low grade inflammation. Now, this inflammation, if only we consume prebiotics or probiotics, it can be regulated, it can be kept under control by because they improve the intestinal wall integrity and they reduce the number of gram-negative bacteria. So, easily the inflammation can be controlled. Why I am talking so much about inflammation is, now inflammation is the root cause of many chronic diseases. Now, it is very well known. Many of the central nervous system disorders, including depression, anxiety, and also type 2 diabetes is very well known to be linked with inflammation. First, an individual develops inflammation, only then they develop the risk for diabetes type 2. And of course, even hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, the risk for cardiovascular diseases, all these conditions increase with inflammation. Now, not only this, even osteoporosis they have shown. So, now you can connect the link between probiotics and chronic diseases, including even osteoporosis. In a nutshell, I can say that both probiotics and prebiotics are very good for overall general health and also in specific conditions, particularly probiotics in specific conditions like caries, necrotizing enterocolitis, irritable bowel syndrome, and also in women for reproductive tract infections. But for overall health, like to maintain weight, prevent obesity, metabolic syndrome, insulin sensitivity, hypertension and cardiovascular diseases, I think here we cannot recommend probiotics, but overall dietary habits must be such that you are habituated to consume regularly some fermented products along with prebiotic rich foods. Once again, it goes back to include plenty of fruits and vegetables in your food and regularly consume whole grains rather than highly polished ones. These are all rich sources of prebiotics which will aid and promote the growth of good bacteria in your gastrointestinal tract. Apart from this, also develop the habit of consuming fermented good quality curd and yogurt or buttermilk with your diet.
Thank you, madam. So far we have discussed regarding history, importance and mechanism of probiotics. In the next session, let us discuss the remaining part.